Hello, and welcome to a new edition of Need to Know, a series of video interviews with companies who are shaping, creating, and innovating in the games industry today, and whose work will have a huge impact going forwards into the future. Today, I'm delighted to welcome Grace Matthews, here to talk to us today from Superscript, all about insurance. So Grace, it's lovely to have you here with me today. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Do you want to tell our viewers a little bit about yourself and what it is that Superscripts do, out of curiosity?
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Leo. So I head up the gaming vertical here at Superscript. We're a leading Lloyd's of London registered insurance broker in the tech space. We've been going for around a decade now. We've got around 120 employees spread across both our London and Rotterdam offices. Because we have an office in Rotterdam, it means we have access to European markets. So we actually have quite a large presence across Europe. I myself have done a lot of work in Malta, Gibraltar, Spain, Isle of Man, and of course the UK. I've done a lot of work with studios, publishers, all different types of businesses in the gaming industry. I do a lot of work in the iGaming industry as well. So working with operators and platform providers in that space too. And we basically are there to help these businesses get the right insurance for them. I joined Superscript about 18 months ago. Before that, I had a career in gaming recruitment. So I've got around 5 to 6 years of experience in the gaming industry. And that's been really helpful because it means that now I understand the risks that businesses face as they might expand overseas, for example, to a global level. So yeah, that's a bit about me and a bit about Superscript.
Fantastic. Yeah, no, that's really, really good. I didn't know about your background there, so fantastic. So we should start at the beginning then. I mean, from your perspective, what's the sort of first thing that a games business should know about when it comes to getting business insurance?
Yeah, we all know that business insurance isn't exactly an exciting thing to buy, right? It's not something that people really want to buy, but it is important. However, we find that, a lot of the time it can be quite far down people's priority lists. Um, but I always say it's important to think of insurance as an extension of your overall business strategy and not just a tick box exercise for contractual requirements, for example. Um, it can actually help support you and your company as you grow. So, whether that's dealing with the aftermath of hackers, to showing investors and customers that actually you're serious as a business and you take your business's reputation seriously. Interestingly enough, I was at the Ukie AGM. I think it was a month ago now, and one of the panels was about ways of securing funding. And one of the panel members had mentioned that actually having all your ducks in a row from a legal standpoint can be really beneficial because it shows that you are serious as a business and therefore might increase your chances of securing funding. So I just thought that was a really interesting point. It's also important to remember that each gaming business's risks are unique. So it's about understanding your specific risk profile and what you'll need to cover, whether that's intellectual property disputes, cyber attacks, or liability to players or partners. And that's where a broker like Superscript can help, because we're actually able to provide you with guidance. We're there to help you get the best cover for your business, as well as making sure your cover grows with you, because things are always changing. So you might secure funding, you might expand and gain more employees, or you might expand overseas, for example, and we're there to help you alongside that.
No, that all makes sense. I mean, you're absolutely right. Insurance is a fantastic way to sort of, legitimize your company and what it is that you're doing, and to sort of demonstrate to, all kinds of businesses, whether they're funders or anything really, that your business is taking itself seriously, and it's taking those important steps to insure against various kinds of risks. So you did mention a couple of those sort of elements there. I mean, there's quite a lot of jargon out there, I suppose. Do you want to sort of break down the key types of cover that a games company might want to be sort of considering at the moment?
Yeah, of course. So in the UK, the main type of insurance that's usually a legal requirement is employer's liability insurance. That's designed to provide financial cover in case one of your employees is injured at work. Outside of that, it's about analysing the risk that your specific company might face. So a small gaming studio will probably have different risks to multinational platforms, for example. So they'll likely need different covers. But the main covers gaming companies might consider um, will be professional indemnity insurance, cyber insurance, directors and officers insurance, general liability, and IP insurance. I'll break those all down. So, professional indemnity, otherwise known as PI insurance, that actually covers a few key areas. So, for example, failure of your professional services, which might result in financial loss. So, from a gaming perspective, it could be in game errors, it could be bugs. It also covers contractual disputes. So, if a gaming studio and a publisher are in a contract, they might have disputes around deadlines, they might have disputes around in game specifications. But we see that PI insurance is quite often a must have requirement. And that's because it can help to protect both parties if you're stepping into a new contract or you're stepping into a new market where you'll be operating in a different jurisdiction. We see that come up a lot in contractual requirements. Sort of the same goes for cyber insurance. And cyber insurance, the main aim of that is to help protect businesses during and actually post cyber incident. So it might include informing your customers that there has been a cyber incident. It might include restoring your systems back to where they were originally, and also covering any claims made against you if your client's data has been stolen. Then we have directors and officers insurance, D&O insurance. This can help entrepreneurs, it can help C-suite level employees and directors, of course, if there are any claims against them for mismanagement. And it's actually quite common for investors interested in a company to make D&O also a must-have requirement. And this is because it can cover legal costs if an investor or a shareholder makes a claim. Then we have general liability. This is one of the more general insurances that you'll likely be more familiar with. This is usually associated with public and product liability, which is useful if you have an office or equipment inside the office, etc., etc. And then lastly, intellectual property insurance, otherwise known as IP insurance. This is built to protect your business if someone claims you've used their IP without permission, and vice versa. So this one is super commonly used in the gaming industry, and we would recommend always looking into IP insurance, but we'd recommend looking into all of those insurances that I just listed out there. So yeah, definitely important ones to look into.
Yeah, I think certainly. I think from my perspective, I think it's always interesting to sort of look at, it's not just a case of sort of mitigating some of these risks. It's about some of the aftercare that goes on afterwards. And ideally, no one wants to find themselves in that risky situation, but it can happen. And burying your head in the sand is not necessarily the most logical thing to do in those situations. So yeah, it does make sense. It does make a lot of sense. So Grace, talk me through sort of the process for getting a quote. I mean, how long would it take? What kind of things do you look at? What sort of questions do you ask? What's the process like?
Yeah, so I suppose our main aim at Superscript is to make buying your cover and keeping on top of your risk in gaming as simple as possible. So the process will start with a brief introductory call. We'll learn more about your business. You'll learn more about Superscript. I'll be present on the call. Our gaming broker, Parker, he'll be present on the call as well. And it will just be a discussion around your needs and whether you'd like to learn more about insurance if it's not something you've ever really looked into before. So each call will be different. So some people might be looking for advice if they're first time buyers. They might be unsure which insurances are even out there, or which ones would be tailored for their business and protect them with the right cover. Then we'll have clients that already have insurance in place. They might be coming up for renewal and just would like some comparable options. They might feel that their cover isn't specialist enough. They might feel that their broker doesn't necessarily understand the gaming industry. So there's a lot of reasons why we might have that initial call. But once we found out their needs, and say they're interested in PI and cyber, for example, we'll then need a proposal form for PI and cyber. Now, 9 times out of 10, they would have already completed one for their incumbent broker if they've already got PI and cyber in place. In which case, we'll just use an updated version of that with our insurers. So it saves a lot of time. Then we can get formalized quotes back. I'd say within 5 to 10 business days. This can vary, it can be earlier. It really does depend on how quickly things move. If they haven't already filled out a proposal form, that's no problem. We can send our proposal form, which is digital. And what I mean by that is they can fill it in simultaneously, and we can answer any questions that they might have. If they want to tag us in any comments or share it with the wider team, it's not any traditional PDF that might be difficult to fill in. It's really easy to use. Now, in terms of the timeline, so I mentioned that 5 to 10 day window there. If they're first time buyers, what we'll usually provide them with is something called a VRI questionnaire. Now, this stands for a very rough indication. It's a super short one-pager comprising of 7 questions. We can even fill it in on our initial call to save time. Once they fill that in, we'll provide that with the same insurers, and they can give us a very rough indication or a ballpark figure, because first time buyers, they might be interested in knowing what the premiums are looking like for the different types of insurances. So it's a really quick and easy way of providing them with some more information. And yeah, I mean, another thing we offer at Superscript is something called a no obligation health check. This is where we'll review their current insurance program. We'll identify and assess any potential gaps in coverage. So there could be improvements that we might find in the wording of the policy, or the limits, the exclusions, the endorsements, whatever it might be. We'll put all of our findings into a presentation and then present that to them either virtually, or if they're local to London, then we can always go around their office. They can come here, and we'll provide our recommendations to them. If, however, we find that the cover is fit for purpose, we'll also be transparent about that as well. It really is just a way of us showcasing our services. It's entirely complimentary, no obligation. It's just there to have the opportunity to work together, I suppose. And then once they've got cover through us, our clients have access to something called a digital portal. Now, this is where they can keep all their cover in one place, so their policy documents, they can keep track of it. So it's really useful if they're stepping into a new contract and a third party has asked for proof of coverage, which can happen quite a lot. So they access that. It's really easy, really quick to use. They can also reach out to their dedicated account managers at any time. But we'll also be in touch throughout the policy period, just checking in and making sure our clients are all set.
Yeah, I think that's you've painted a fairly decent picture there of how the whole process would work. I think crucially as well, offering that sort of MOT style service, having a look at what's existing already and where things can be improved is fantastic. That's a really good offer there. So I mean, thinking about the games industry itself, Obviously, insurance often applies all kinds of industries, but in terms of the games industry itself, I mean, obviously, it's made up of you know massive corporations that span different countries, so multinationals, but also small, tiny one-person studios, I guess, almost. So yeah, how do you sort of suit, or how would you tailor cover to suit a different size businesses, so different indie studios compared to sort of a global publisher per se?
Yeah, so cover for an indie studio compared to a global publisher, for example, will look completely different. Whether that's different insurance policies altogether, or the limits, the exclusions, endorsements, or the wording of the policies, they'll all differ depending on their risk profile and business activities. And there's a few factors that might influence that. So it could be the revenue, it could be the employee size, it could be the jurisdiction in which they operate in. These are all things that influence that. And our main goal at Superscript is to build insurance policies tailored specifically to the needs of our clients. That's the most important thing. So a startup indie developer, for example, they might focus on getting more affordable professional indemnity and cyber insurance, for example. So they're protected, but without breaking the bank, which makes sense, right? However, a global publisher, often we're looking at higher limits of indemnity, or multi-jurisdictional cover, or actually just more complex policies altogether. They could be looking at intellectual property enforcement and regulatory defense, whatever it might be. So at Superscript, we work with businesses at both ends of the spectrum. So we work with scale up, startups, all the way to grown-ups. And our brokers are also industry experts. So Parker, who I mentioned earlier, he is an avid gamer. And so with myself and Parker on the call, we're blending both worlds of gaming and insurance, and therefore able to understand the nuances of your business and the risks you might face. So yeah.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, no, I obviously Parker's fantastic. Met him as well, so yeah. I think it'd be interesting from your perspective, given all of your sort of expertise here. What are the common mistakes that people sort of make around sort of getting insurance, specifically from within the games industry? I mean, are there some common misconceptions? I know we've already highlighted the sort of issues around pure tick box behavior or compliance, but yeah, from your perspective, what are some of the sort of common mistakes, and how to avoid them, I suppose?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I would say there are three common mistakes that we see. I'd say number one is leaving it too late, and we see this quite a lot. So waiting until a partner asks for insurance, because this can lead to quite rushed and then expensive policies, which of course we don't want. So my advice would be just have that conversation, just have that intro call, even if it's just to learn a bit more about it. The second I'd say is underestimating cyber risks. So thinking, oh, we're too small, no one will target us, when actually smaller studios can be seen as more vulnerable, because hackers can quite often target smaller companies because they see them as a gateway, I suppose, to more lucrative and data-rich firms. And then this can lead to financial damage. It can lead to an impact on your reputation, and take time away from doing what you love, which is building your game. So again, really important to think about. And then I'd say for the third one, it would be not reviewing cover as you grow. Again, quite common. I mean, a policy that might have worked or did work when you had 10 employees is certainly not going to cut it when you have 100 plus employees. So it's important to review that. I'd say to avoid these, you need to be proactive. So speak to a broker early, review regularly, and see insurance as part of your growth toolkit.
It's a really, really sensible way to look at things. Definitely sort of along the lines of supporting growth and definitely sort of protecting against those cyber issues that hopefully people slip under the radar for, but you can't ever be too careful, I suppose. Well, Grace, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. It's been really, really fascinating having a chat with you. Really appreciate your time. I think there's an awful lot for games businesses to consider here, especially when sort of considering that sort of scale up approach. But even in preparing and starting up, I suppose there's an awful lot that needs to be sort of considered further down the line. So yeah, thank you so much, Grace. Really appreciate it, and thank you today to our audience who've tuned in to catch this video. There's plenty of other need to know videos out there on our Ukie TV channel on YouTube. Thank you for enjoying this one, and more very soon. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Leo.